Hey, let me get some of this together really quick. Let me pull some stuff over here. Let me move here. Let you all watch me figure out these technical issues. There we are, and everything is set. I just wanted to double check because this is kind of a big day. It's the last episode, only for season one. And what I'm really excited about is that originally I started this thing. I wanted to make a 10 episode arc or self-help guide. I'm still trying to figure out the words like I was in season one of just dealing with institutionalized racism, like exploring how things are getting better in some places, how it's getting worse. We started just interviewing one person that I found incredibly interesting who had the courage to just show up and attempt to own. I think that's the big debate. I always think of Mark Richard Taylor as the catalyst. I am forever grateful for him. I am forever grateful for the fact that he was willing to step up. And from there, I wanted to build a Black Theater Matters bill. The purpose of this bill was to serve as a new contract for when Black artists work in traditionally white spaces. And then I wanted to open that up to film, TV, and all of the areas and corners where the arts touch. That was the plan. And then it would turn into the blueprint for LGBTQ plus matters, like things of the like, Asian, Latinx. I just know the horror that is translations. like this was supposed to be that blueprint. And I'm just so happy with the information that has come out of these episodes. So thank you all for engaging. I'm just overwhelmed. Again, you never know what happens when you take a risk. And I think this is a testament to some of the wonderful things that can take place. And this episode 10 is about hope. I really want to lay that down. I talked about George Floyd and just how it really just shook me to act, to do more than what I was doing. It wasn't about scoring likes. It wasn't about, it was just really from the heart. It was a genuine moment. And I am so proud that I went with it. I am so proud of the bridges made. I'm proud of the bridges burned in pursuit of truth. I am just incredibly happy with everything that was done. For this 10th episode, I sent an invite to Sag-Aftra, to their president and their national executive director. And I just had questions. I wanted to see what was going to happen. I was really engaged and interested in Sag-Aftra. For anyone that doesn't know, which is probably most people watching, because I tend to keep this show close to the chest. Originally, I wanted to kind of spread everything out. Now, we got caught up in Actors Equity way more than I thought we would. That is a complex situation, and I am very happy and proud and grateful that we got to explore it. But I also wanted to spend a lot of time with Sag-Aftra. I am elated. I am shocked. I am humbled that on the first invite, they both said yes. So with that being said, I'd like to play this intro. May I have the season finale video?
Check. That sounds good to start with, guys.
After 9 episodes of exploring the complexities of racism, I cannot think of a better way to instill hope for the entertainment industry than with these two giants from Sag-Aftra joining me for the season finale. Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists President GABRIELLE CARTERIS is an accomplished voiceover artist and screen actor, appearing in Touched by an Angel, NYPD Blue, NCIS, Criminal Minds, JAG, King of the Hill, Batman Beyond, Nip Tuck, The Event, Avatar The Last Airbender, Deck the Halls, Johnny Bravo, Gargoyles, and also she was Andrea Zuckerman in Beverly Hills 90210. President Carteris became vice president of SAG-AFTRA in 2012 after the merger. and went on to become president in 2016 and still serves today. Madam President proves with ease that her brilliance expands beyond Beverly Hills, leading Sag-Aftra into the ratification of the 2020 TV Theatricals Agreement valued at $318 million during a pandemic is historic. Period. Nothing else. We're done here. Please help me welcome our president, Gabrielle CARTERIS. David White is the National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator of the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. He previously served as General Counsel from 2002 to 2006. White was Managing Principal of Entertainment Strategies Group, LLC, where he provided consulting services to the entertainment industry. He was a labor and employment attorney at O'Melveny and Myers, LLP. Prior to law school, White was the executive director of the innovative youth services organization, Youth Opportunities Unlimited. Past positions include Los Angeles Area Commissioner for Urban Planning and Development, contributing writer for the Los Angeles Lawyer, and commentator on national publications, industry publications, and radio shows. When it comes to awards, move over, EGOTs. We have a JNAP. Awardee of the John M. Langston Bar Association's Attorney of the Year Award, the National Bar Association's Entertainment, Sports, and Art Law Section Attorney of the Year Award, and the Association of Media and Entertainment Council's Labor and Personal Representation Council of the Year Award. Welcome, David P. White. Philip is singing. Holy smokes. Thank you, Philip Brandon. And thank you, David White and Gabrielle CARTERIS,
for being having us.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great introduction.
Yeah.
Shout out to Napoleon Douglas. It's a team effort.
Oh,
thanks. Here we go. When booking a guest, I was taught to shoot for 3 types: the simple and interesting guest, the controversial guest in need, and the aspirational guest. Both of you are aspirational bookings. With everything going on in the world, our industry, and our lives, why did you say yes?
Well, first of all, the fact that you actually reached out, it's important for us. For me and David, we both talked about wanting to be able to share the conversation. You wanted to talk about the contracts, what's been going on in the industry. This is something that clearly we're in such an incredibly challenging time. People want to be a part of the conversation, and that you wanted to invite us to be a part of it. For me, I thought absolutely. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, the time that we're in right now is it's more than just challenging. It's more than just a crisis for many people. It's disorienting. It feels like something we've never experienced before. And that's a time when you actually have to be out speaking with as many people as possible. And the mix that you have for your show, as evidenced by your introduction, which brings what's going out on the streets into the life of people who are interested in media and entertainment and the industry and the details of contracts. You've called yourself a nerd. That shows even from the intro, right? I mean, you're a detailed type person. So we're going to try to get on shows like this as often as possible in order to share in this conversation.
Thanks. So you brought it up. I am trying to create a Black Theater Matters bill, which will expand to all places. I'll be coming over to SAG as well. Just, hey guys, but with some ideas. But what I find really interesting and why I was really excited is when I look at you, I think, oh, I'm in the presence of master negotiators. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to start maybe talking about just your list of accomplishments. Is that okay?
Yes. So if you think that's going to be interesting, sure.
Who would say no to that? How did the two of you pull off the largest deal in the history of our union during a pandemic? $318 million. That's the value of this contract.
I'm going to say, as a member, I hope that people are really proud of, it's actually the negotiating team and the staff are tremendous. The team of negotiators from membership side is all working actors, all people who have a vested interest in this contract. They really make a living from it. It's not just aspirational living. That was the work. And that was really important in this, particularly this negotiation. We always want to make sure that we have, active members who are participating in the contract that's being worked on. But these members really were engaged. The pandemic almost was a gift, because usually in a negotiation, when you have working actors, that's what you always want to have there on the member side. They're going off to do shows. So they're in and out of a negotiation. Because we're in the pandemic, we did Zoom negotiations every day for 6 weeks. And people, this is where they went. They didn't leave. And so we were from beginning to end in these conversations. And then David, being the lead negotiator, he's such an incredible advocate for our membership. I mean, really a visionary. He and Ray Rodriguez, who lead the negotiations, I can't tell you how they really are able to understand the challenges that we are going through. And they actually helped articulate that in the room. It is really an outstanding contract. And it is because of the work of everybody involved.
Oh,
Let me just add to that, because the audience may not understand the mechanics. A negotiation like this has a lot of people on the side of the union and a lot of people on the side of management. So if you think about the industry, we've got people representing Disney and Warner Brothers and Paramount and Amazon and Apple, and they've all got their representatives there. So ordinarily we're doing that in a room, and we're across the table, and maybe there's 20 people on one side and 20 people on the other side, and then 80 people behind them with computers just typing away. So on their side, it's Excel spreadsheets, and on our side, it's people taking notes. And then we all go back to our respective rooms. We talk about what we've heard. We yell to each other about what we've heard, and then we come back and we try to figure out that deal. In this negotiation, it was all done just like this. It was all Zoom. Nobody was in the same room with one another. That was a big challenge. Some of the issues that we had that we wanted to deal with are historic issues, and the pandemic really did have an impact on that. There's a limit to what you're going to want to achieve when you're going to get numbers, and you're looking at companies, many of whom are seeing their businesses not necessarily destroyed, but crumbling right in front of their eyes. And so your question is, how did we get those numbers? One of the ways that we got those numbers was to get into that negotiation, take what we could achieve, knowing that our members wanted to get back to work as quickly as possible, and then get out of that negotiation. And to do that before the all the numbers about the pandemic, and now that we're in this summer surge, et cetera, we wanted to get that deal done as quickly as we responsibly and reasonably could. And so the timing of that went into the strategy, and then what you focus on. We wanted a lot of money to go into our pension and health plans, in particular in our health plan. We wanted to make sure that wages were going up. We wanted to look at the future, which is digital platforms and shows that are on digital platforms. We increased residuals there. We wanted to focus on nudity and protecting people, particularly women who are in intimate scenes. So we really focused in on a couple of key targets. And I'll just say, without the pandemic, we probably would have focused on a wider version of targets that we wanted to achieve in the negotiation. But those are the points that you make, not only as staff, as Gabrielle's focused on, but also the members. You really got to get a sense of where's the membership on this, what are members going to be able to see as gains, and how do you get that balance right? So there was a lot of that going on, and it was the first time that any of us had done that via video, via Zoom.
And when David says we went in early, but what was really, when you talk about Kismet, we actually started preparing earlier for this negotiation, not even knowing there was going to be a pandemic. We wanted the ability to be able to go in early. If we, we're not usually first. We said if we want to go first, if we want to go second, if we end up going third, we ended up going second. But we were ready to go in. That was key. And that was out of all the members who participated in these last couple of years to get us to that moment. And that kudos to them, because really part of, you can't just go into a negotiation. You have to be ready for it. And I think that we really were ready for it amazingly, not knowing that we were going to be in a pandemic situation. So it was fortunate.
You said something earlier about it being majority actors and David. Now, here's my question. When I went to the University Arts, I believe it was Meisner, Stanislavski, Neutral Mask, Viewpoints, but at no point did I ever take 101 negotiating. So at what point or how did these actors learn these skill sets?
You know what happens is when we even get involved with union service, it's mostly, people will say, I really want to get involved, but I don't know anything about it. If you're a working actor, you really work the contracts, you know more than you realize. So once you get in the conversation, when we go behind, so once you're in the conversation, you realize, oh my God, I know so much more than I realized, and I don't know as much as I want. It's a process. Most of the people in the negotiation have been in negotiations before. But even for myself, who never thought I would do something like this, I actually go and I rely on, the staff relies on the information that we share as members. That's what I do in the negotiation. We give real case scenarios. Like, that's not how it works, or this is how it works, or this has been going on. And we have those conversations. The staff then goes and translates that and they bring it across the table. Sometimes we go into sidebars to go and articulate it even more clearly, what's taking place. But the legal part, that's what our staff does. They're really the lawyers. But what we're doing as members is we're sharing the real life experiences, talking about we really give, I guess we give a real frame up to what's taking place in the industry. Instead of being told what's taking place, we actually reflect what's taking place. And then we say, you know what, this is really important. David's talking about, streaming. Major focus for members. They're saying Netflix, look what's going on. Amazon, where are the residuals for that? We want to be, that's where everything's going. It's not just appointment television. So make sure to get those residuals. So that's the conversation. And we talk about where we want to see it. We got an incredible, he talks about an increase in residuals. We're talking 26 to 45% increase in residuals for streaming. That's a direct result of the needs of the members. And that's the staff hearing that, really knowing that that's where the pain is, and we really want to go and see an increase. So that's the experience we have as members, is we come in with our work experience, and then the staff digests it, and then they transpose it and bring it across the table.
A simple way of thinking about that, Davon, is that you got to keep it real, right? And so I don't work on a set. Got to get that from folks who are actually working on a set to really understand the impact of the decisions that are being made.
You already knew what I was going to ask you. You already worded it. You're a step ahead of me. Let's talk BBH. Can you explain to everyone what that situation was?
Sure. BBH is an agency, an advertising agency that works with advertisers. So advertisers can be Procter & Gamble, Tide, Crest, things that get sold through commercials. And they work with BBH, which is an agency that has as a client lots of folks around the country. BBH is owned by a company that's outside of the United States. And they decided that they were going to disavow our contract and use non-union talent. And we went to town on them. We went on strike. A lot of people thought that it was going to be the way of the future, that BBH was attempting to do something that would then become a trend. And we took them on strike. We won that strike. They actually came out with a statement saying, hey, we tried, we lost. Everybody in the industry saw that. It was a victory, and that was just members sticking together and saying, so long as you're doing this, you're not getting our talent. If you think you can make commercials without professional talent, go for it. And they did, and they failed.
I think that this has been really, for me, Davon, a really exciting time in my leadership. I have seen members activated in ways I had never seen historically. What we've done in terms of Telemundo and BBH and these organizing campaigns with broadcast stations and even the work we're doing for safety, all of this is coming together because the members are engaged in ways that I have never seen before. And it's really people taking ownership and pride in the union. It's been exciting.
Davon, can let me just add a little bit of context, because people may not have any reason to focus on what's really going on behind BBH. And Gabrielle mentioned Telemundo. If you think about unions in this country, there has been for many decades hostility to the idea of unions. Recently, with the increase in wealth inequality across the country, we see rich people getting richer. They get richer when times are good. They get richer when times are bad. And we see poor people doing worse. There's more conversation about the need for unions with teachers within our own industry. But as a general matter, there is a push away from professionals coming together through a union to protect themselves. And that is happening. So you think about commercials, right? Commercials just used to be on television. And with television, those are big budgets and big media and all that kind of stuff. And now you can see them through a website. And those are little budgets, micro budgets, and people don't really want to see them for a long period of time. We've become accustomed to skipping through commercials and having services that don't have commercials. All of that puts pressure on companies to move away from a union contract, because a union contract affords a livable wage, it has protections in it, et cetera. And they want to wipe away all of that. So big picture, we see that type of pressure happening in commercials and in a lot of other areas all the time. And when Gabrielle mentions Telemundo, that's another example of Spanish language. Spanish language is big for a large and growing group of the American population. It's another example of companies that don't want to use a union contract. And so as a general matter, when you just step back and look strategically about the position of Sag-Aftra and about how we navigate towards the future, we want to make sure that we're sending a signal everywhere that we can that if you're going to use talent in front of a camera or behind a microphone, you're going to use professional talent and you need to be a part of our family. And so we may refer throughout this conversation in to a lot of different pieces that will feel fragmented, but it's all part of a whole of making sure that work stays within the confines of SAG-AFTRA's contracts.
I would like to let everyone know that SAG-AFTRA has their own YouTube channel. And one thing I would encourage you to do, if you're ever into just effective messaging, is just type in SAG-AFTRA BBH. It's really cool. It's really funny. They created or rewrote the Grinch song. They did some incredible things, but there was something in particular that I thought was really strong. Can we play messaging?
Bartle Bogle Huggerty, the ad agency known as BBH, publicly announced they are no longer a signatory to the SAG-AFTRA commercials contract. Let me be clear about what this means. Ad agencies like BBH, who depend on you, our members, to help sell their products, want to pay you less. Even though many of you have to have a second job to help pay your bills and put gas in your car. And their reasoning: they can't compete with other ad agencies who are not signed to our contract. Well, that's not true. SAG-AFTRA is always open to hearing the concerns of the ad agencies. In fact, last year, we created the low-budget digital waiver specifically to address the complaint that they were losing advertiser clients to non-union competitors. But you know what? BBH is unwilling to engage in meaningful conversations, and we are left with no choice. This is where we take a stand. As union actors, we must hold the line against those attempting to undercut our collective.
That is some incredible messaging. Can you all break down that ad? Or PSA, let's call it a PSA.
Break it down in the sense of...
Here's what I saw that was very, very interesting. The situation was beautifully worded. This is what's happened. This is BBH. This is the full name. This is the code they go by. There were close-ups when we got to the intimate moments. I saw a little strip up to, I think it was the top right, where you could click and learn more about what was going on. And then there was a call to action. And this is what I find very interesting. You did it, the entire thing, in under 2 minutes. How? How many people were, one, involved in that? Two, at what point did you all go, this is now phase whatever of this strategy? And what response did you get after you did that drop?
That drop was a bit of a lot of different things happening at one time. So, right, and it is an incredible team. We have an incredible communications team, the staff, the contract staff, what's going on in organizing. It takes a village to do what you saw there. And that in 2 minutes, it's really the attention span of people. They need to know right up, right? They want the information, what's at stake, what's happening, and then what do we do to make it better? And that's how much time. And if you can't get in that much time, you got to keep doing it until you do, because that is the way to, I think, get people's attention, and that's their attention span.
Yeah, we've got a producer on our team. We've got producers on our team for exactly that reason. And when Gabrielle talks about a village, you got to have the right contract information. So you got your contracts folks, organizers. That's a group of people who go out and get work and bring work to the union and bring people to the union. So you have effective messaging there. And then there's some 101 going on there. You got to have the call to action. Got to have a piece. You got to have the right tone. And then you get Gabrielle, who is an expert at bringing forth a compelling message in front of the camera. So
here's something I find very interesting when it comes to negotiations. I've worked with a lot of teams when it comes to negotiations behind the scenes, and something that always bothers me is when the negotiation is done and the results are out, and then one team is beating their chest going, "We won, we beat them down, we did it." And what I find very interesting is even when BBH released that statement, it was, "We went for something, it didn't work out, but we have found a middle ground." And when you all came out, it was very much, "We have succeeded in this situation," which also with the, again, $318 million deal during a pandemic. Even then, you all aren't going, SAG is the best. It's, we have done this. We have partnered. We went into this room looking for a way that all of us could succeed. How do you keep that spirit in the atmosphere? How do you get that messaging across that everyone is looking to win?
By coming and being on a show like yours.
Okay.
No, I think people always want to hear more from Gabrielle from me, but I'll start, and then Gabrielle, you do clean up on this. These are long-term negotiating partners, right? So we have to fight and we got to make love, right? And if one side embarrasses the other, everybody's got a long memory. And that puts poison and toxicity into the relationship even more than may already be there, because it's natural for us to be battling over key issues that are important to us and important to the other side. So it's a principle that we rarely stray from, which is we're not here to embarrass our negotiating partners or negotiating adversaries. We're here to achieve what we can for members and to have the relationships with the other side so that every time you need something throughout the duration of a contract, you don't have to go to battle. You don't have to do an arbitration. You have to go the legal route sometimes, but most time you want to be able to pick up the phone and say, "Come on now, you know, you all are jacking around, stop that," and to have them respond in that way. So you got to keep those relationships going, would be my answer.
There it is. Just like acting, relationships. Speaking of relationships, let's talk about race. You ready?
Okay.
Relationships leading into race. I love it. Let's do it.
All right. Can we play pipeline?
A pipeline issue. If everyone who is a decision maker looks one way, all the way down the chain, then nobody even gets in the pipeline because everyone's only hiring people that they're comfortable with or that they're familiar with. So if you never have people get into the pipeline, you never get to see the diversity of talent of folks who can tell great stories in different ways. And you end up with an entertainment product where everybody looks white. They all look the same. And the only stories are stories that would be compelling to one portion of society. And that's got to stop. I think people recognize that that's got to stop. I think the habits that are embedded in this industry are very difficult to break. And this goal is to break those habits by establishing internships and jobs on the early side of the pipeline to make sure that a diversity of folks are getting through. And in this instance, we're talking about Black folks.
David, have we made any progress in getting more Black bodies into the pipeline?
Yes. Not enough, but yes. The straight answer to your question is we have made some progress. In that sense, we were talking about a partnership that the industry has with historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs. We, Sag-Aftra, have internships with programs, Hispanic Latino programs, programs for the whole range of marginalized groups within the country. And that helps. But even more importantly, as importantly, other food groups within the industry, agencies, businesses, the crafts, the locals, IATSE, people are focused on that in a way now that they have not been in the past. And I'll use one example. I had a mentee who is a terrific artist, actually went to school for it and just had no way of getting into the industry. And I was able to pick up the phone and work with a counterpart at a studio to say, all I'm asking is take the interview. And the studio took that and made sure that that individual got not only in the pipeline, but got into an internship that had been newly developed with IATSE, which is the union that actually covers crafts, people that do hair and makeup, and they do they build the sets, etc. And that individual is now in the pipeline, working, has a full-time job, and is doing well. And that's a microcosm of what is happening in the industry. And I've got one other thing to say, but I know Gabrielle wants to speak on this as well.
No, David, I mean, I think that that's a great example. I think also we're seeing shifts because people are able to self-create now in ways they never could before. That's going to open up the pipeline as well, right? So we're not depending on the same people like David's talking about going into the same way. People now are able to go and create their own work. As a result of that, they can hire the people that they want to hire. They can tell the stories they want to tell. There's a market for that. We're not just on a linear plane of how we go and exhibit our projects. And so because of all of that opening up and technology changing, I actually think you're going to see an even more of a growth and a shift in inclusion. Because there's going to be more access just naturally created through technology and its expansion.
You know, there are two narratives here, though, and I don't want to be too. I don't want to be overly optimistic. We still got problems, right? I mean, if you look across the studios, if you look across the executive teams of the folks who greenlight projects, they are overwhelmingly white and still majority male. And so that hasn't changed. And that is that pipeline. Like, how do you get in there? I do see changes. I think we all see changes. We hear announcements of executives who have been hired who are getting more of a chance. But there is one framework that I think does help, and it goes right in line with what Gabrielle was saying. We used to live in a media world where people were looking for large mass audience. So it was ABC, NBC, CBS. They're looking to get as many people as possible within that great big boat. And that makes things generic. And frankly, it made things outside of a couple of periods of time, like mid-70s, et cetera, white. We're not looking for mass audience right now. The business model right now is a series of niche audiences, right? What I watch on Netflix may be different than what Gabrielle watches on Netflix, may be different than what the brown 30-year-old man watches on Netflix, may be different than other groups, but we all can find something on these platforms, Amazon, Disney Plus, etc. The more there are stories that are designed for specific audiences, the more opportunities there are for storytellers to actually have a story that is specific for different groups. So I do think that the move from a mass audience to a niche audience, where you've got to have a pipeline of stories that fit the interests of a broader array of people, I do think that in general, that creates momentum that also is going to help. But let's not fool ourselves to believe that we are in the promised land yet. We're not. But progress is being made.
You're not going to see that. I mean, it is something that ebbs and flows. I think we're definitely farther now than we've ever been. But I always say to everybody, you know, you see these moments of illumination do not take them as the holy grail in the end, right? These are just moments that we have to take advantage of so that we can step forward again and again and again. And we see in our country right now, the battle that people are having with themselves and with, you know, we have to be able to say and see. It's really important. One of the things we've been working on in the union is race and storytelling. And we had a really, I think it was an incredible panel. It was when, you know, Black Lives Matter after, you know, the death of seeing George Floyd, and talking about the real truth of what it is to be a Black person in this industry, what it's like in casting as an actor, how people are paid differently. I mean, these are real conversations. With those real conversations, we create an awareness, like, because people, they live in a vacuum otherwise. They just live in their own world and they don't know the stories unless they hear the stories. We have to actually set the table with really what's out there so people can have an aha moment saying, this is wrong. Of course we have to change this. But people aren't even made aware of some of these issues that are going on. So we as a union are trying constantly to open up the conversation. How do you, you know, talk about really what's happening? What is it we want to see different, and how do we get there? And then we have all these different ways that we try to help implement change so that we can ultimately get to the place that David says we're not really there yet. But these are the steps and the things that we can do to hopefully get there.
All right, for everyone watching, David has four pillars of change. This is like a rule he has. David, do you remember what the 4 pillars of change are?
The 4 pillars of change include 1, education and empowerment. 2, the rules themselves. So the pillars of change deal with sexual harassment. It can be applied to more issues, but you have to change the underlying rules. So that's the legal bit. You've got to make sure that people are educated and empowered to work off of those changes. The union itself, we have to do better. There is internal work that we need to do to not only embed those rules and changes, but to provide the platform and the programs and services to support those changes as they emerge. And the 4th one is that we have to embrace relationships and work directly in a collaborative manner as much as possible with other folks throughout the industry to make sure that changes are being cultivated around us.
Right now, August 13th, 2020, which pillar needs the most attention?
Oh, listen to you. Is that's for Gabrielle or for me?
That's for you. It's your pillars.
Education and empowerment. There are a number of tools out there that are available for folks. There's information out there. And one of the things that is most challenging in this industry is fear of actually taking those tools and that information and using them. For example, if you're on set, because nobody wants to be retaliated against. If you think about a freelance world, everybody is looking for their next job. The next job depends on relationships with other people. And so you don't want to be the one on set making noise. You don't want to be the one that someone says, I'm not hiring you again because you're a troublemaker or you're getting in my way or you're costing me money, etc. You really have to understand that you're part of a broader community. You have to feel like it is normal, correct, good for you to be a voice for yourself, for you to be an advocate for others, and for when tools are built, rules change, you are positioned to use those tools and to use your voice for yourself and for others to make sure that those changes actually take place. So all of them are still in need of moving forward, but I would actually focus on that one right now, because that fear of retaliation and the inability to use one's voice when you're really just concerned about your next job, particularly during a pandemic where jobs are even more scarce than usual, is really key.
But you know what I'll say, part of the education or the empowerment is actually learning this one thing, that just because you say it doesn't mean you're going to lose your job. That actually, we want you to know exactly what your rights are, and that when David says people are afraid, and look, I'm afraid. I've been afraid to, if I speak up, what is that gonna mean? I don't want to be the one who rocks the boat because I don't want to be held out there. But I've talked to other actors, and the same thing across the board for people who are working out there. They'll say, I have found a way to be able to say what I need to say in a way that's respectful. You can still be respectful and still be able to make sure you get what you deserve. And you don't have to be afraid of that. You need to know it's your right. You can do it and embrace it rather than go and be like, you didn't do this for me. It's not that. It's, this is the way this goes. How can we get there? And we need to educate our members so they can know how it is they can speak in a way that they can be heard, and that they need, in order for change to happen, they have to participate. It is the most frightening thing, but I have to say this thing that David's talking about, because we're afraid to lose our work, that is a lot of times is much more in our heads than in reality. I mean, people don't want to, I really believe that. I think that if they knew and they tried it, they'd realize, oh, my fear was much worse than the reality. In fact, by doing it, I actually got it without a problem. I think that's important.
Let's stick to that. David, when he's not being the national executive director, is being a moderator. Can we play Success?
At Sag-Aftra, the language that people use about being successful is a language of creating. And it wasn't that way even 10, 15 years ago. It was the language of performing. And now creating is seen as a vehicle towards getting in front of the screen, or it's a vehicle for continuing to be a creator. So
creating is everything.
And
creating, ownership is everything. It is success.
Well, so yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's go with that.
Absolutely.
Let me for a moment keep to the screen.
Okay, in that pause, what was going on in your head?
Davon, I don't know where you're pulling these videos. That were
it's the receipt.
Years ago. I don't know. As a general matter, here's what goes through my head when I'm moderating. I'm creating space for people to use their voice. I'm creating space for there to be a conversation. And when you've got strong personalities up there and folks with with their own following, they know that they are right and they've got something in their mind, and it may not go with the flow. And so the pause was along the lines of, accept that, hear that, by the way, she's right. So figure out a way to keep the conversation going. So that's
it was the listening reaction, right?
Yeah. It was like check, okay, go. But something with two strong personalities, something interesting did happen. Amanda Seales tells the story in that panel where she goes to a job, the language isn't sounding right. She knows that the writers are not Black, and they go, well, just change it up, just do this. And she goes, hell no. She just like, I'm not doing that. However, Glenn Turman tells a story where he's kind of faced with the same opportunity to change it. And he goes, this is a moment that ended up getting him his guild status with WGA, got him a writer's credit, and he took it and ran with it. Polar opposites. Where did you find yourself on that scale?
Me?
Yeah, listening to both of them pretty much say, well, one pretty much going, I don't do that. Yeah. And Glenn Turman pretty much being like, well, there's a time, I believe what he said was, you have to figure out when it's an opportunity or a moment that's going to shoot you in the foot. And I thought that statement in itself was incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, Glenn's an incredible individual. And on that scale, I find both of them right. There are moments, I mean, I would love to turn some of these questions on you because I know you've got your own responses to this, but there are moments when you are feeling your power, when you're just at the end, and you've got to actually stand up and speak up for yourself. And then there are moments when you either don't have that feeling of courage, or where you decide that an accommodation in this instance, with all of those little things that are swirling around, the relationship here what happened yesterday, the fact that you may have said something in some other place, you don't want to push it. I think there's a spectrum of opportunity there that each performer on set, and frankly, each individual, regardless of where you are in your life, goes through, and you've just got to make that determination for yourself. Our job is to make sure that you've got whatever tools and information and the power of community that we can convey to our members to make sure that when the moment is right for them to speak up, that they don't feel alone, that they actually, as much as possible, have heard stories from other people who have taken their foot and moved it forward, so that they have some sort of path that they can follow, and everyone doesn't feel like they're forging that on their own, which is much harder, particularly in the moment. So I think there's room for both of ends of that spectrum, and for the space in between. And people got to navigate that path on their own.
Can we get personal for a second? I've seen this in a lot of the, I would say, Facebook groups for union members all over the place. This is a very popular debate, and I kind of want to throw it at you just to see where you stand with it. Can we get a little personal real quick?
Yeah, who's the you here?
I'm sorry?
Who's the you? You still talking to me?
David. It's you, David.
I'm telling you, Gabrielle's more interesting than me, but yes, let's go for it. Go for it. Do it.
Oh, I'm gonna balance it out.
I'm actually myself.
I'm with you, brother. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. So your resume highlights your work with O'Melveny and Myers. Now, here's the story. Now, in 2008, I had the chance to ghostwrite campaign copy for a voiceover artist working with the GOP. She was liberal in her political views, but she killed those voiceovers. It was great. Thank God 2008 went the way it did. But now, this is what always bothered me about it. And finally, I could put it into words and kind of set it up. O'Melveny and Myers wrote you checks that you cashed when you worked with them. The firm has defended the 45th president during the Trump University suit. They vetted his nominees and has continued to defend him during questionable moments while in office. Now, if you accepted the money, does that mean you also accept and take ownership in the actions of that entire company?
Woo! So the answer to the question, I think, is no. But let's make sure that you and the audience have the right premise for the firm. When I came to the firm, O'Melveny and Myers was steeped in the Democratic Party. It was run by Warren Christopher, who had been the Secretary of State under Bill Clinton and also had been working directly with Jimmy Carter. It was a Democratic, left-leaning firm that was public service oriented. That, in fact, is the reason why I went there. There are a couple of firms that I won't name that were known to be on the right. O'Melveny and Myers was straight on the left. Right at the time that I was there, I was only there for 2 years, right? Yeah. But right at the time that I was there, Warren Christopher moved as the chair, and a man named A.B. Culverhouse came in as the chair. And he was Republican and very steeped in the Republican Party. And so the politics of the firm shifted. So it's at least worth noting that the choice that I made when I came out of law school, and this was actually very important to me, was the choice of a left-leaning law firm that was steeped in the Democratic Party. Okay, now that we got that out the way, the answer I still think is no. Look, if your company is doing something, broadly speaking, that you find morally heinous and terrible, you've got a couple of different choices. One, if that is so overwhelming that it defines the profile of the company that you work for, then maybe you should walk, right? If it's one issue among many, and many of the issues are positive, and there's a lot of good positive work that are in alignment with your values, then maybe internally you fight with that company to change those issues that you don't like. And you've got to make choices along those lines. There are certain companies, there are certain fast food restaurants, etc. I will not go to. I don't let my daughter buy from, etc. I just don't, because that is the profile of the company for me. But when you're working for a company, just make sure that you're informed about the full diversity of what's going on and how the company operates in the world, their foundation, etc. So I think it can be more than just a one issue item. So even at O'Melveny, when they turned and the chair was steeped in the Republican Party, if I had continued to be at the firm, the higher up that I moved, that probably would have burned a hole in my soul more and more. But as a junior associate, as a mid-level associate, I would have made sure that we were doing our part to do pro bono work, to be in the community, to be on boards of organizations that were important to me. The work that I was doing was work that was in alignment with my values, et cetera. So I think that I don't think that a company typically represents one issue, unless it's unless it's something that really you just find so reprehensible, you got to go. And then when that happens, you got to go.
Just for everyone at home, O'Melveny hired someone who was instrumental in the Brown versus the Board of Education. It's a very good, they've done some incredible work. So let's just be clear about that. Moving on.
At the end and not in the beginning. Listen to you.
I was going to help you out if you started drowning. Like I have, I know, I researched the company. Also, they said that David's work there was phenomenal. Gabrielle, we have something in common. Can we play Canon Women?
They weren't going to take care of me. They weren't going to make sure that I got care. And I said to them, are you kidding me? You saw what happened. You said you were going to take care of me, and now you're just going to abandon me? It was in that moment when I got upset that I went from inner activist to out of the closet activist. Oh, yeah, man. I was going to rock the boat, and I did. I went to the press. I went and showed everybody. I let the world see what I look like, because I was no longer going to be that silent voice.
Now, the thing we have in common is that both of us in 2016 did TED Talks. How cool is that? Yours, I watched it. It was funny because I watched it years ago. And when we were preparing for this, I was like, wait a minute. And then found it, pulled the moment that I thought was really cool. And here's why. Your breakout was a success. Now, in episode 2 of The Receipts, I invited actors and actresses on, Black actors and actresses, to tell their story of how their Black bodies were misused while they were on the job. And what I found very interesting is that their stories didn't go that way. Now, in this situation, we hear that more often than not when it comes to minorities or marginalized groups, where we speak out and we're silenced. And then that tends to get complicated because it affects our career, which is already not given the same privilege. So you've touched on it a little bit earlier, but what I would love to know is if you could speak a little bit more or walk us through the cost of speaking out versus the cost of staying silent.
It's deep, man. No, so I can say there are times in my life, I think, where sometimes in staying silent, it is a slow death. It is painful. And there are times I've spoken out where I know I've put things on the line, but actually it's so freeing to know that I told the truth, that I'm willing to take that because I can't hold it in me any longer. In my injury, when I was injured, it was something I was very quiet in the beginning about because I didn't want anybody to see how deformed I was. I didn't want it to stop me from working. Not only with that production, I didn't care. I didn't want to work with them, but I was afraid nobody would work with me. And then when I came to the realization, if I do not speak out and tell the truth, I will be left behind and I will never be able to work. And it won't be because they did that to me, but because I did it to myself. And it is really, you know what, it's a choice. It's a very difficult thing. I can't tell you that if you say the truth, you're not going to, there's not going to be repercussions. But there are times in my career when I have spoken out about things and I knew if I did it by myself, I would lose my job. It happened on 90210. I talk about this. There was a time when I knew some money was being taken from the actors. I recognized it. I knew that I could not do an audit on my own from with Aaron at the time, Aaron Spelling, thank you. Because I thought if I went to do this audit, then I would lose the job. I went to the cast privately. I talked to them about what I had discovered. I said, I think that we should have it investigated. And we together went and did an audit, and none of us lost the job as a result because we came together as a team and it wasn't one individual. So sometimes when you talk about that feeling of isolation, part of that isolation is because we feel it so strongly that we don't want to share that we feel isolated. But if you go to your fellow actors and you really have these private conversations, you might be surprised by how many people will stand with you. And if you're not standing alone, I think there are different ways to be able to tell the truth. I think there are different ways, and sometimes people just are so afraid that they don't look at the options. They just say, I can't do it. I'm not here to say, you have to make that decision for yourself. For me, the truth has always set me free. And sometimes in setting me free, it does mean that I know that it has affected some of the jobs I could have gotten. But I know in the end, I have no regrets. And so that was my journey, though, right? That was where I was able to come to. And you, as an individual or anybody, I would say the same thing. You have to be able to look at it, but you don't have to ever tell the truth alone. It's amazing how many people, if you really tell the story to somebody, if I came to you and really talked to you and you're a friend, you probably will come to stand with me because you're not alone either, right? So anyway, I think that it's a very hard thing to do. And when you tell me, that feeling of being a Black person and that you're confronted with this all the time, that pains me. I mean, it pains me. That's a reality that I feel it in my own way, but I don't feel yours. I'm not in your life. And when I'm hearing that, it's just, but you have to be able to tell that story, because I have to tell you, that's when we did the race and storytelling. When you start telling those truths and people start to hear it, they get enraged as well. They stand by, like saying, that's unbelievable. What do you mean you can't do that? I'll be there for you. You have to tell the truth. You have to tell people.
Yes. Also, again, Sag-Aftra has a YouTube channel. Please go. Please, you don't have to be, just go. The content is unreal. But I also want to do it before we move to the next question. You said you brought in the entire cast. You brought in Tori Spelling?
Tori Spelling.
Okay, that's all I need to know. So wait, time's out. Was their relationship good before, and was it good? When did it disintegrate? Were you the reason? No, I'm joking. Don't answer that.
I was the toxic thing. No. Tori had her own relationship, and she had many years with her father before he passed. But she knew, for all of us, we had to stand together, and it was profound. It was a great lesson.
For those of you that don't know, Gabrielle CARTERIS, before she became president, she had left 90210 and she entered into the 90s talk show wars. Can we play? There was a very interesting episode in which, again, both of these people, master moderators, but she broke for a second. Can we play Quality?
And they're tired. They're too tired of discipline, so they give in.
All right. I have to say something, Mary, because I'm a working mom. Okay. I feel that I can have it all. And I know how hard it is, and a lot of women, and I have to speak for this, a lot of women out there do not have the choice not to work.
Right, I agree.
And I feel that whether I'm with my child 100% of the time or 70% of the time, when I am there, it is the quality. The quality of what I give my child. And as much as I think what you do is great, and I think it's great that you feel and that you can be home with your children to raise them, I also feel it's great that these women are not kowtowing to the fact that men don't have to run the world.
Okay, let me clearly say, I'm not against the working woman. I was.
All right, so just to clarify for a couple people, we're now in 2020. Gabrielle has 2 children, and she is still with her husband. I believe they're about to hit 30 years. So in Hollywood, my conversion rate's really off. That's like 90 years. It's like 90 years, right? All right. So you brought up the word quality, and I want to kind of lean into that. What is quality for you when you are a wife, a mom, a friend, a union head, and a working artist?
What is quality for any of us, right? It's no different for me than it is for, I think. I mean, quality for me is David knows, my family is the most important thing in the world. And if I can keep my family healthy and I can be engaged with my family, then I have the strength to be able to be involved with everything else. So I always, for me, I have to start at the core. But, and so I think quality is the way we engage. I'm lucky. I love our members. I love the work and being of service. So that's quality to me if I can love what I do. And I don't know. I think it's constantly rejuggling. I can't even pretend to tell you that I have the answers to it. I just know that it's constant reevaluation, the willingness to shift, to know that times change and every moment has a different need. And I just have to be able to be present for that.
All right. In the AFL-CIO, under that umbrella, David or Gabrielle, can we name another executive director of color?
I don't know in the AFL-CIO.
So with that being said, David, what does your tenure and legacy as National Executive Director mean?
It means a lot. It means being high profile, first in the industry. There are plenty of Black leaders of unions around the country, but our industry is unique. And when you're looking at executives in this industry, I think being a Black man and being a person of color is significant. You know, I hold that position very seriously, and there's a lot of ups with that, and then there are downs with being on the front line and having a spotlight on. But every day you got to get up and showcase the best of leadership, and the best of the virtues of our community. So I try to do that every day.
All right. Can I get, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the love. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. What is your biggest goal for your next term? This is from backstage. To encourage engagement among our young members. These are the next generation of people who will be tapped to fight for our members' rights and protections. So they need to learn the business of this union. Can I give you one more? Actually, no, that's enough. We can go into this. I asked a lot of SAG-Aftra members and council members, what do you think about transparency? And they went, we're incredibly transparent. Even in your partnerships with IATSE, that safety program that you all unrolled, which is great. Even the public fights are just very, it's quality. And even those are transparent. And I always admired that. But then there was another, I'm trying to see if I can find it. Let's see. It's not important. Essentially, I have the quote for you. What you say is, and this is after you won the election, there were people who challenged you for election issues. You say this, Gabrielle: we will keep building on our commitment to honesty, transparency, and a strategic vision that protects our members, strengthens our contracts, and fortifies our union. In what areas can SAG-Aftra be any more transparent?
You know, you have to keep being transparent, right? It's not like you just did something. We are evolving every day, creating and supporting members in so many different ways. And so we have to constantly be upfront. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you just share like, oh, we're doing this with organizing, or we have this, you know, what we're working on the contracts, whatever. We are constantly, we're a vibrant, evolving organization. And so everything that we do, we have to keep putting it out there. I don't think it ever stops. David laughs because we are constantly trying to inform and to share what's going on. It's so much is going on right now all at once, to be able to do that so people can actually, it's palatable. You know, it's not just giving out the information, but it's making sure that people hear the information, understand the information. You know, when you showed the video earlier and you said, you know, how did you get all that in 2 minutes? We had to know what it is we were going to say, to explain where we were at, and then to do the ask of where we needed to go. We have to do that in everything we do, because we need people to be able to hold on to it and somehow engage them so they'll be a part of that process with us, because we can't do it. It's not separate. The union is not separate from the members. The union actually exists because of the members.
Quick quiz. Go for it, David.
Sorry, Davon. It's worth noting. I mean, the other unions and guilds in the industry and other agencies and companies literally cannot believe the amount of information that we put out. I mean, it is unbelievably higher volume than even what other unions tend to put out. But the criticism about transparency is constantly there. So it's a high volume. Look, politics within SAG-Aftra is a full contact sport, like serious full contact sport, right? So everything that isn't included in that can be labeled as something that's non-transparent. That debate has raged from, years and years and years. There's actually a book called The Politics of Glamour.
Yes.
And it was published in the late 80s, and it was about the Screen Actors Guild. And at the time in the late 80s, at one point, the author, who was a professor, I think out of one of the universities in Texas, UT Austin or something like that. And literally the author asked himself, like, is this place going to break apart? I mean, these guys their politics are so severe. That was in the late 80s. That was nothing compared to now. That's like compared Ronald Reagan to Donald Trump, right? I mean, it's so we're constantly putting the information out there, and we're constantly being held accountable to do more. So that,
all right,
that does not change.
I just got a message from Pam saying we need to wrap this up. I know you all have places to be. So with this small window, I need you all to work with me. We're going to shoot these questions off. You ready? I need you all to do that 1 minute or less skill set that I know you have. We played it. Here we go. Question number 1. With the pandemic muddying the waters, theater producers are investing more in digital readings and projects. For me, who's AEA and SAG-Aftra, this gets confusing because what I want to know is, where does AEA's jurisdiction end and where does yours begin?
AEA is for
Actors Equity Association.
Right? Yep. Equity for people who
live audience. AEA, they are live audience. We are recorded remote audience. So if it's being recorded, that's us. For equity, it's live. And in a time when there is no live audience, we are prepared to and do work with equity as much as we possibly can to have waivers of jurisdiction so that there is work in front of a live audience, built for a live audience, that can also go in front of a remote audience. We need to grant those waivers because we want to be as helpful and supportive as possible with the sister union.
I love the way that you all just continue to collaborate with the other union. Your partnerships are just incredible. I think it's so incredible to see people reaching across the aisle under that umbrella. 4 questions left. Here we go. Again, we're shooting through them. We're going to get through these bad boys. I did a social experiment in which I announced that you all were coming, not by name, put it in some SAG groups, put it in some AEA groups, put it in some other groups, and just waited for the reactions. Now, here's something very interesting about SAG. Now, I know that there was a panel that was supposed to happen. Can we get local president? Local president, boom. In which SAG-Aftra recommends LA local president Patricia Richardson for some of the actions that she had done. We could take that down. With that situation that took place, can you still call her and go, okay, we have some work to do? And she goes, yes, let's get to work.
I'm always reaching out, and I will reach out to everybody in this union to work with them. So for me, if there's something that needs to be done, yes.
All right. Number 3, this is the 3rd question. Again, we're going to power through this, and I will not ask it. I'm going to give it to Kimberly. Can we play Kimberly?
Hi, my name is Kimberly Chatterjee. I'm part of a group calling for Actors Equity to create a system that tracks complaints made against chronic abusers and then takes action to stop the abusive behavior or revoke the membership of chronic abusers. Can you tell us if SAG-Aftra tracks complaints of racial and sexual abuse of its members and what you do to prevent the continuation of abusive behavior?
Can you do it in 1 minute? Go for it.
I'll start. The quick answer is we don't track chronic abusers as well as we can. And we are working right now to build a system, because when complaints come in, they come in to a particular local around the country or to a particular contracts person around the country, and we handle that. And we are right now building the system to track predators and to put those pieces together. But it's tough given the fragmented nature of the work and the fragmented nature of and our offices spread out across the country. That's a fair question.
We also have a process for if when members complain about other members, they have to go through a process. When they do that reporting, there's an internal process that takes place. So we have the mechanisms in place. One of the things historically that I've recognized is members have been upset when things haven't been done, but they never reported it. And so part of the action is to take action, right? Part of that support needs to happen by people communicating. Again, thematically, what we've been talking about this whole time.
I think about that when we had a very powerful 8th episode of this show, but I'm not going to talk about it because I'm giving my second to last question to Emily. Can we get Emily During? I believe she's in the chat right now. She is probably one of the first people to ask the question. I'm so sorry if you have to do a lot of scrolling to find her. Boom! How do Gabrielle and David feel about the federal judge greenlighting the termination of the Paramount decrees? Do they think it'll even have a practical impact at all in our modern industry? And if so, what kind of impact?
The Paramount decrees. Now, I realize I should know what that directly refers to, but I don't. And that's probably, I would want to get our legislative folks on the phone. So I don't have a good answer for that question.
Emily, I will do the research. I will nerd out. I will message you directly. And then if we have it, I'll post it on the Facebook page. Last question. Here we go. We're just going to do a quick game of 90210 or 9021 no. Here we go.
Oh, I don't remember 90210. No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm joking. Here we go. Can I get Fox News? Can I get Fox News? Boom. This is Richard Trumka. Can we take him down? All right. Is he a 90210 as in just doing incredible work, or we can do better, 90210 no?
Really going to do that with me? I think that Richard does a great job, and I think he can continue doing better.
All right. That's awesome. Can we get Slate? Sometimes certain factions in Sag-Aftra are outright confrontational with each other. As president, what do you plan to do to unify different slates in the union? This is a backstage article with Gabrielle CARTERIS. We could take it down. During election time, slates 90210 or 9021 no.
Slates, unfortunately, 90210 I would say, but they exist. So no, I wish they didn't, but they do. So.
And last one, and then I'm going to thank you forever. Can I get 2015 gold?
In a distinguished group of people, many of whom have given years and years and years to union service. The one thing I can say that I do think qualifies me, even though I've been president for only 6 years, is that it's aged me 30 years.
Now, in that same time, David was surprised with that medal, and then Ken Howard, the SAG-Aftra president that came before you, technically the first president, 90210 or 9021 no?
Oh, 90210, great. Yes, it was really a beautiful moment to see both Ken and David receive the gold cards, and I have to tell you that makes me, to see his face, to see Ken up there, really touches my heart.
I want to.
Hey, wait, before you do that. So the Paramount decrees, I don't refer to this, but that talks about theaters that have the shows, and they also own the theaters where the shows are exhibited, right? So, and the removal of that, the removal of the distinctions, I think while it tracks technology, I actually think it allows companies to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And antitrust has lost ground, and I think ultimately that hurts. So that is a 9021 no, right? Okay.
I want to thank you all for coming. I also want to encourage our guests. Things that we didn't get to talk about that I think SAG-Aftra, David and Gabrielle are doing incredible work on. Deep fakes and sexual. Honestly, when you Google SAG-Aftra sexual harassment, David's face pops up. That's important. So I want to thank both of you for, again, just shocking me and coming onto this show and just being real. Like, nothing was off limits, as you can tell. And they went there. It's just the transparency. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this and for everything that you're doing.
Thank you for having us, really. And thank you for everything you do. And congratulations on 10 episodes.
Yeah, it's great work. It's great work. So you're
It's
creating your
aged me.
future. It's good to see.
Thanks. It's aged me a lot. Take care. Have a good one, okay?
All right, take care.
Thanks. In the 8th episode of The Receipts, we had a panel of Black excellence. Excellence. However, we had technical difficulties. So what I would like to do right now is, with this final episode, before I give my final moment, I want to bring back legendary panelist from our Council of Black Excellence, Valerie L. Thomas. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am just happy to have you here. Again, final episode, going the way. I was so happy today that I woke up, went to, I very much like gambling. I very much like bidding. I went and bid on a car today. I am now the owner of a car. That's how excited I was to end this show on such what has turned out to be a high note. And now this is even better. Valerie, I would like to ask you 5 questions that I didn't get to ask you on episode 8. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All righty.
Can you hear me okay?
I'm going to ask you to speak up, but that's also because my voice just really inside of these headphones. But yeah, if you could speak up a little bit, I think we can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Is that better?
That's so much better. There it is. There it is. Question number 1. Now, for everyone that didn't know, in that segment, there was supposed to be this incredible math moment in which we were going to break down the numbers and everything else. And that's when we were going to bring her in. But today, it's kind of a blessing in disguise because we get to know her. First thing I want to know, what is your biggest accomplishment?
My biggest accomplishment at work? Is that your question?
Yeah, just no. I'm saying your biggest accomplishment in life. Because of course, whenever we see certain people, we're always like, oh, Martin Luther King, I have a dream and all this. But rarely do we get to ask that person, when you look back over your life and what you've done so far, what do you point to and go, this is it?
I would say my biggest accomplishment has been having the opportunity to influence young people. And my idea of influencing young people is introducing them to opportunities through education outreach. You know, I worked as a mathematician for NASA. I've come across a lot of things. I've done a lot of things in terms of college education, university education. I've learned things, and I think it's very important to share those things with our young people, especially young people who are underserved, and mainly young people of color.
What would you redo in your life?
Now, you asked me that question before, and what I told you before is still the same. Going through life, I've had some challenges, and one would think if you had challenges, if you know what to do about it now to avoid them, maybe you will go back and undo having the challenges. However, I'm not like your typical person. I found that having those challenges caused me to grow even more, because wherein going through life, I never had challenges in mathematics. You know, mathematics came to me like, answers coming out of the air. So I've always been very good in mathematics. Nobody told me how important it was to take mathematics in high school. I'll say higher level mathematics in high school. Nobody told me that. And I didn't take the higher level mathematics courses. However, I made a decision to major in physics in college. And I didn't find out until I got to college that by my second year, I had to be able to handle calculus. I had no clue of what calculus was. However, I had to be able to handle it to be able to succeed in physics.
Mm.
So I found out how important mathematics is. And my recommendation to young people having that challenge is to take all the mathematics you can, especially K-12, K through 12, because at that time, you have something that you don't have once you get out of high school. You have a teacher who cares about you,
Mm.
who cares that you're going to be successful. Once you get out of high school and you go to college, they don't care. I mean, you may be in a situation in a small school and there are people who care. However, you may be in a situation where you are a number and they don't care. They just care that you paid your bills. So that's one of the things I like to share with young people. And I'm glad I had the opportunity because one of the things I learned by having a challenge of not having taken the higher level mathematics and needing to take it in college, I had to learn something that I never used before or knew before. That was how to study, because I never studied before I got to college. So going back to what I said initially, things that one would think you would want to change because they caused a problem in the past, I do not want to change any of that because I learned and I can share it.
Your resume is stacked. It is incredible. And oftentimes, a lot of times, people end up getting covered by their resume. Who are you outside of your resume?
Who am I outside of my resume? I am a person who was a lifetime learner, and I am a person who is a lifetime sharer of information. So I think that's me.
Um, and I guess the big question for me is always, how do we make your story, which again, Google her. She like go to Google, learn. This is an incredible woman. It's the stories are gonna come. The movies, the books, it's gonna come. But if you want the early bird special, Google is your friend. However, what I want to ask you right now is, how do we make your story, which at some point people are gonna know your story. How do we make your story commonplace by at least 2030? Like, how do we make or how do we create more Valerie L. Thomases?
Okay, what we have to do is give our young people an opportunity to develop their creativity and their knowledge base. One of the things that I have noticed, and especially in minority communities, there are a lot of very talented, brilliant young people, okay? And they may take their brilliance and use it in other ways. However, if we can sort of get them to move in a direction of something positive where they can use their knowledge, their skills to start creating technology. I do substitute teaching, and that's one of the things I was telling my students. You know, when I go into the classroom, they're on their cell phones all the time, doing various things. Usually, it's something dealing with some apps that they're interested in. And what I told my students was they have access to resources. They're really good in terms of technology. You know how it is. You're one of the young people. When technology comes out, you know it right away. You know, the
Yes.
older people have to get the
Thank you.
young people to show them how to do things. And what I tell my students is rather than just being a consumer of technology, start being a creator of technology. That's what I would like to see. And I see, and my thing is, if we can get our young people to do that, then we're going to see something take off. You know how it was when certain people got into tennis? You see
Hmm.
what happened? You see when a certain person got into basketball
Yes.
and track, Imagine that happening in technology. That's what I would like to see.
That's I don't know. I don't know what to ask after that. All I can say is thank you. Since the moment I laid eyes on you, I was like, that's power. I'm witnessing power. There's something here. I want to thank you for forever ago. You invited me to see a rocket launch. Changed my life. Thank you.
Really?
Yeah, you forgot. I was a little big-headed little boy. Which did you say? Which one?
Yeah, which rocket launch was that?
Of course, you would say which one. I don't know. I was a baby. All I remember is being like, "What is this? It's hot." Oh wow! I just remember, and it blew me away. But I remember you saw that and you went, "That went well," and just kept. Here I am as a little kid, like, is she not impressed? And now I know why. So thank you for allowing us to redo this and allowing my viewers in the world to get a moment with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And you're welcome.
Thanks.
And look, that's what I do.
Work. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Take care. All right. As you can see, all smiles today. I hope that you're inspired. I hope, like me, you are filling these notebooks with notes. I hope this content was usable. I hope that not just this, but every person who is taking the moment to create change and do something during this moment has inspired, has gotten people to want to do more, has gotten people to want to do so much. Again, I woke up one day and said, let's do it. And here we are, episode 10. Sag-Aftra royalty, NASA royalty, Supreme Court justices, legendary actresses. Just, I am so humble and I am so happy. And before I go, let me give these thank yous before I give this final message. Napoleon Douglas, thank you. I know you're in the faraway room, hollering cues in my ear, texting me and things like that. Thank you. The research for this was unreal. I knew I was going to have to nerd out. I didn't know it was going to have to be this intense. And I am so happy I took this walk. I feel smarter. I feel better. I feel like I'm more rooted in my history. ATB, when all of this happened, our agency still hosts office hours in which members of the agency can get together and just talk and share theater news and world news and figuring things out. I am so proud of this agency. When I said I had this idea, they said, let's do it. How can we get it up and running? When you're seeing these videos move and everything else, it is the agency that could be doing so many other things. They could just be ghosts, but they leaned in. And if ever there was a moment I went, I chose right. This is that moment. Thank you, ATB, for helping. I want to thank 3D Theatricals. I had reached out to Tom McCoy over in Los Angeles. I was like, I want to interview you, and he said, actually, I want you to meet someone. So I reached over, and I was aware of 3D Theatricals. I had auditioned for them before. Where there's a relationship there. So when I got a chance to actually talk to TJ Dawson, and he went, yeah, we gotta have something similar. And your name had come up, and let's do this. I want to thank you, Amanda. I want to thank you, TJ. I want to thank you, Kyle. I want to thank everyone else. I want to thank all the Dawsons. I want to thank everybody just for the support. It's not every day you get to see, they are making content over there daily. And they said, you know what we can do? We can make sure that we amplify that voice. When I first did this, I looked at all the companies I had ever worked for and auditioned for, and I reached out. And it is something powerful when a company that can easily go no, and it doesn't affect them, leans in and goes, let's do it. Let's be the face. Even with our sins or our problems or anything else, we're ready to own those and keep it moving. I want to thank every guest who had the heart, the care, the courage, and the audacity to show up. Every guest that showed up. I salute you, I honor you, and I appreciate you. I thank you to people willing to share information. Again, episode 8 blew my mind, but in the name of transparency, people who don't even get along were like, you know what? Let's do this. Like this is kind of bigger than us. Let's not fight. Let's do this. Let's deal with racism. And we did it. We took it on. I'm not saying we won. Like even like David said, Sag-Aftra doing incredible work. We still have work to do. The fight doesn't stop. And I appreciate everyone. And a lot of these people don't even know me. They don't even know me. They just believe. And sometimes that's what you just have to, what is it, Diana and Ashford and Simpson say? Reach out and touch. You know the rest. Thank you to my secret advisors. Again, I do this thing where I like to reach out and touch. And in 2013, when Trayvon Martin died and I felt paralyzed, there was a group called Black Lives Matter that did something. Now they're all over this country. They are doing such incredible work. This is their time and they deserve that credit. But even during their time, they found time to advise me. Surprise, there it is. Black Lives Matter, and anyone who knew all as well, who's in that community, in that group, in that powerhouse, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the tools. And not only for the tools, but going, here they are. How can we amplify? How can we help you shine and not get in the way of your message? Thank you. Thank you. I want to be like you. I want to be better. I want to do that. Now it is time for me to go work on this Black Theater Matters bill. Ain't going to be easy. There are going to be some people who say no just to say no. There are going to be some people who are going to say, yes, I want to work with you. They're already coming. That it's going to be anything. And as I work on this, if you are interested and you want to be involved with the rest of us who are working on this, drop me an email. It's my first name, Davon, period, N for Nathaniel, period, Williams @gmail.com. I'm not doing any business. I'm not doing all that. Directly email me. And I will do what I can to figure out how we can get you in. I want everyone in on this new contract for Black bodies entering traditional spaces. And I want it to be the blueprint for every other not one. It will be the blueprint. And if someone beats me to it, even better. All hands on deck. This is a moment. Like Gabrielle said, we were given a gift in this horrible tragedy. We have a gift, we have a moment, and we got to get it right. It's okay to be transparent. It's okay to reach out. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I have this idea. And what's even better is if you see an idea that you don't agree with, you don't have to diminish it. You can just go, what is this? Let me understand a different perspective. And maybe you can bring that person over. I would like to send everyone to How to Be an Ally. That's an episode in which someone who said all lives matter in 10 messages or less converted and said Black Lives Matter. Now's the time to humble ourselves, to be big, to be huge, and still be giving. No one gives a damn about your thousands of hours or anything that you're doing. No one cares. What they care about is your heart. And if your heart is true, you can get things done. That's the phone. I'm going to go back to being an artist. I'm going to go work on this Black Lives bill, and I'm going to answer that phone. Thank you all. Bye.